Imagine this. A scene unfolding, not in the quiet corners of history, but live on television, broadcasted to millions around the world. In a split second, Pope Leo XIV, the figurehead of the most powerful institution on earth, is struck. A moment of shock. A moment that sends ripples through every corner of the globe. What do we do when the unthinkable happens right before our eyes? When someone who's supposed to be the very pillar of faith, the embodiment of strength, is suddenly vulnerable. Pope Leo XIV injured, live in front of cameras for all to see. The world gasps in disbelief, but it doesn't stop there. The Vatican, the very heart of the Catholic Church, trembles with uncertainty. The reactions that follow are anything but simple. There are whispers, there are outbursts, there are those who rise in defense and those who point fingers. And then, Cardinal Tagle. His response, calm, collected, but for some, too calm, too composed. For others, a beacon of hope, a moment of grace. For the world, a spark that ignites global outrage and praise all at once. But let me ask you something. Who's to blame for the injury? Was it truly an accident or something darker? And why did Cardinal Tagle's words, his response, stir up such a powerful storm? Is this a moment of failure for the Vatican? Or could it be the dawn of a new era? A moment where the Church is forced to change, to adapt, and perhaps to evolve. Now, I want you to take a second. Think about this. Could it be that the very fabric of the Vatican is being tested in front of our eyes? Could this event shake the foundations of what we've known for centuries? I know this is heavy, and you might have a million questions racing through your mind. Trust me, so do I. But if you're here because you want the truth, not the flashy headlines, not the gossip or the noise, if you're searching for what really happened and what this means for the future, then this video is for you. And hey, while you're here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment. I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? And what do you think about everything that's happened? Let's get this conversation started. The tension was palpable. The moment Pope Leo XIV was injured, it wasn't just a fall. It was an event that caught the entire world off guard. The broadcast was live. Millions of eyes were watching. What was supposed to be a routine public appearance, an act of normality, turned into something entirely unexpected. There he was, standing tall, his serene face turned toward the faithful, delivering his words of peace and love to the masses. And then, without warning, he stumbles. A shift in his posture, a misstep, and before anyone can react, he collapses. The screen freezes for a fraction of a second, the silence in the room deafening, and then the chaos. The audio cuts in with the sharpness of alarmed voices, the panic setting in among the audience, the Vatican staff, and the journalists. Cameras zoom in, capturing the stunned looks of those around him. There's an immediate rush, a flurry of movement, with people crowding around trying to shield the Pope from further harm. The tension in the air is so thick you can feel it, even through the screen. It's a moment suspended in time, everyone watching, breath held, wondering what happened and what would happen next. The reactions, both in the room and outside of it, were immediate. The crowd in the Vatican Square gasped. Some seemed frozen in disbelief, others immediately trying to reach for their phones to capture the moment. The journalists, normally calm and composed in the face of any news, were visibly shaken. And the Vatican staff? Some were already rushing to aid the Pope, but others appeared disoriented, unsure of the next steps. It wasn't just a physical injury. They were dealing with a crisis that transcended the body. This was a crisis of image, a crisis of authority. And we all know the Vatican's image is its most precious asset. But let's pause for a moment and think, what exactly went wrong? Was this a mere accident? A simple slip that anyone could have made? Or was there something more sinister at play here? If you look closely, there are hints that suggest this wasn't just a careless mistake. The steps leading up to the incident, Was the Pope given the proper support for this appearance? Was there adequate security to prevent such a lapse in the first place? In those critical moments before the fall, was there something that could have been done differently? I want you to picture it. As Pope Leo XIV moved, there were security officers just a few feet away. But were they watching carefully enough? Were they in the right position to catch him in case something went wrong? There was no immediate security response, no instant intervention from those around him. In those few seconds, the situation spiraled out of control. The Pope, the leader of millions, perhaps the most visible figure on earth, was left vulnerable. What does this mean for the Pope's safety? For the Vatican's security? Are we really to believe that such an event could unfold without prior warning or lack of preparation? The implications of this moment reach far beyond the physical injury. Yes, it was a fall, a bruise, but it's also a crack in the fortress of the Vatican's control. The question on everyone's mind now is, if this could happen so easily, what else could happen? If the Pope, the man who stands at the highest position in the Catholic Church, can be harmed so publicly, what does that mean for the Church's strength, its presence, and its security in this modern world? It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? That the institutions we've trusted for centuries, unshakable, immovable, could be so vulnerable. But this incident has opened the floodgates. What was once a symbol of unwavering authority now stands under scrutiny. And the fact that this happened in front of cameras, with the entire world watching, only amplifies its significance. So now, we're left with questions. Was this truly an accident, or did something more deliberate happen behind the scenes? Something we haven't seen, something not captured by the cameras? Could this be a deeper message that someone, or something, was trying to send to the Vatican? In the days following the fall, the Vatican scrambled to explain the event, but the damage was already done. What was supposed to be a moment of divine authority turned into a moment of reckoning. Pope Leo XIV, for all his power, was as fragile as anyone else. And in a world that's become increasingly skeptical of institutions, this injury, this fall, could it be a sign that something is shifting in the very core of the Church? Think about it. In the age of modern media, every detail is dissected. Every action, every word, every movement is subject to analysis. What could have been a quiet moment of recovery is now a headline, a trending topic, a flashpoint for debate. Was the Pope's safety neglected? Was this simply an unavoidable accident, or a larger sign of deep-seated issues within the Vatican? We're left asking, who was responsible? Could this have been prevented? Or was it just a matter of bad timing, fate, and an unlucky twist of events? What happens next in the wake of this? As the world watched, we were all left in a state of shock, waiting for an explanation that never quite satisfied. The Vatican, often a fortress of secrecy, was forced to confront something it couldn't hide. This wasn't a simple slip or an unfortunate fall. There were too many unanswered questions. Why was the Pope so vulnerable in a situation that was supposed to be routine? How could the world's most protected figure, the leader of over 1 billion souls, be left so exposed? The security lapses were hard to ignore. In any other situation, this kind of event would have been quickly diffused. Swift action, a clear response. Yet here, in the heart of the Vatican, there seemed to be a delay, a hesitation. Was it a simple oversight, or was there something more to it? Could this injury be a signal, a warning, not just of physical harm, but of something deeper, something that needed to be addressed but wasn't? Let's take a closer look at the aftermath. As Pope Leo XIV was whisked away, the response from Cardinal Tagle was swift, but not as expected. The world waited for him to condemn the situation, to point fingers, to assign blame. But instead, he responded with an air of calm, almost too calm for many. His words, measured and controlled, didn't mirror the urgency that many felt was required in such a delicate situation. Some hailed this response as a sign of wisdom, of knowing exactly how to handle a crisis. But others? They felt it was too cold, too detached. Some saw his response as calculated, a man more concerned with the Vatican's image than with the reality of the moment. And that's where the real division began. Some believed Cardinal Tagle was the right leader for such a moment, stoic, composed, focused. Others thought his response was a betrayal of the vulnerability they were witnessing, a cold mask over the Church's true emotions in the face of such a crisis. The world's reactions couldn't have been more divided. In the West, some saw it as a sign of the Pope's waning influence, a symbol that his era was ending and that the Church had lost its grip on power. In the East, particularly within the Asian communities, Cardinal Tagle's response was interpreted differently. His calm demeanor resonated with many as a testament to his leadership in the face of disaster. Yet the questions lingered. Was this an act of great control, or an effort to downplay something much more serious? Now, the debate wasn't just about Pope Leo XIV's health. It was about what this moment represented for the Vatican's future. Was this an isolated incident, a freak accident? Or was it the beginning of a larger shift in the Church's approach to leadership, security, and vulnerability? Security experts began to weigh in. How could such a public figure, surrounded by security, have been allowed to be exposed in such a way? It was a mistake, some said, a momentary lapse that should never have happened. But others raised the question, was this vulnerability intentional? Could it have been a deliberate move, a message to the world that the Vatican, the Pope, was not invincible? As the days unfolded, there were rumors swirling, rumors that suggested there might have been something more at play. Could someone have wanted to send a message to Pope Leo XIV? Could this injury have been orchestrated, a signal from within the Church or from outside forces? Some began to wonder if this was no mere accident, but part of a larger struggle for control, both within the Vatican and across the global stage. The controversy didn't stop at just the Pope's fall. It spread into every corner of Vatican life. The staff, the security, the leaders, they were all put under a microscope. People asked questions about how such an important moment could have gone wrong. Was this simply human error, or was there something deeper, something darker, that we're not seeing? As the Pope recovered, the world continued to scrutinize every action taken by the Vatican. There were no simple answers, no easy resolutions. This moment was now a part of the Vatican's history, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. The Pope's health, his security, and the very institution he led were suddenly under a glaring spotlight. The world had witnessed a moment of vulnerability, and with that vulnerability came questions that would not be easily answered. In the end, it's not just about the injury. It's about what this moment represents. It's about the cracks in the foundation of a centuries-old institution. The world now knows that no one, not even the Pope, is immune to the realities of the world we live in. The Vatican has been shaken, but has it been broken? Has the age of unquestioned authority in the Church come to an end? The journey ahead for Pope Leo XIV and the Vatican is uncertain. What happens now? Does the Church rise from this moment, stronger and more unified, or does it fall deeper into the shadow of its own vulnerability? The world is watching, waiting, and asking, what comes next? What will the Pope do, and how will Cardinal Tagle handle the fallout from this crisis? And here's the real question for you, the viewer, the believer. After all of this, where does the Church go from here? Is this the beginning of a new chapter or the final pages of a once powerful empire? As the world remains fixated on the aftermath of the injury, the true weight of this event begins to sink in. The Vatican, a symbol of strength and infallibility for centuries, has been exposed, not just physically but symbolically. The Pope, that figurehead of eternal power, was shown to be just as fragile as the rest of us. And in that moment of vulnerability, the foundation of what we've known about the Church seemed to tremble. But let's ask ourselves, what does this mean for the Church's future? If we look deeper, beyond the immediate fallout, we start to see a bigger picture, a picture of change, of transition, of inevitable evolution. Is this the beginning of a new era for the Vatican, one where the power dynamics shift, where the unshakable institution we once knew begins to crumble under the weight of its own age and rigidity? Or does this injury mark a low point, an event that will be remembered as the turning point where the Church faced its darkest hour, but ultimately pulled itself back from the brink? We can't ignore the fact that Pope Leo XIV, despite his injury, was able to maintain his position, his calm, his grace, his ability to stay composed in the face of personal pain. It speaks volumes about the man he is. But we must ask ourselves, was this composure the sign of true strength? Or was it a reflection of the deep underlying cracks in the Vatican's carefully crafted facade? And then there's Cardinal Tagle, who, with his poised response, appeared to lead the charge in maintaining order. But while many saw him as a steady hand in the storm, others questioned if his calm was masking deeper issues within the Vatican's leadership. How much longer can the Church maintain the illusion of invulnerability? As the faithful look to the Pope for strength, are they beginning to see something else? A vulnerability they hadn't noticed before? For the faithful, this moment is more than just a spectacle. It's a wake-up call. The Pope's injury is a stark reminder that even the most sacred institutions are not immune to harm. The Vatican's perfect image has been cracked, and now the world is left to wonder what lies beneath. Can the Church, after centuries of standing as an unshakable pillar of faith, adapt to the changing realities of a modern, skeptical world? This moment, this fall, was a moment of reckoning, not just for Pope Leo XIV, but for the entire Catholic Church. A moment where the world was forced to confront the reality that the Vatican is not beyond reproach, not beyond question. It raises so many more questions than answers. Could there be more to this event than meets the eye? Was there a hidden hand involved? A power struggle simmering beneath the surface? The question remains, what happens next? Is this injury just a minor incident in the grand scheme of things? Or will it mark the beginning of a long, drawn-out struggle for the future of the Church? Will Pope Leo XIV rise from this and reaffirm his leadership? Or is this the moment where the torch is passed to someone else, to a new generation of leadership that will carry the Vatican forward into uncharted territory? As we await further developments, one thing is clear. The Vatican and the Church as a whole is facing an unprecedented challenge. It's no longer just about religious doctrine or tradition. It's about survival. It's about adapting to a world that's increasingly questioning everything it thought it knew. And here's the final question for you, my fellow truth seeker. Where do we go from here? How will the Vatican respond? Will Pope Leo XIV's injury be the catalyst for much-needed change? Or will it fade into history as just another incident in the Church's long, tumultuous journey? The truth, my friends, is that we are on the edge of something bigger than we can imagine. The world is watching closely, waiting to see if the Vatican can rise above this crisis or if this moment of vulnerability will become a turning point, a moment where the old ways are no longer enough, and the world demands a new kind of leadership. This is the crossroads the Church faces. What happens next could reshape everything. And you, as a part of this conversation, have a role to play. As you watch these events unfold, ask yourself, what kind of future do we want for the Church? How will you respond to the truth as it comes to light? The journey ahead is uncertain, but one thing is for sure. The eyes of the world are on the Vatican, and every step, every decision, will be scrutinized. Only time will tell whether this moment will lead to renewal or unraveling. As the days pass, the world continues to speculate, to question, to wonder what the fallout from this incident will truly be. The Vatican, long seen as an unshakable institution, is now facing the reality that even the most sacred pillars of power can be tested and sometimes fall. This isn't just about an injury. It's about the entire structure of the Church being brought into the spotlight, forced to confront its fragility, its vulnerabilities, and ultimately, its future. Let's be honest with ourselves. This is more than just a moment of physical pain for Pope Leo XIV. It's a symbol of something deeper. The world saw him, the Pope, hurt, vulnerable. And for the first time, many began to wonder, is the Vatican's strength in its doctrine or in the myth of invincibility? There's a profound lesson in this event. No one is beyond fragility. Not the Pope, not the Church, not even the very faith that has stood for centuries. People, regardless of their position, are only human. And in this moment of human frailty, we all learned something about the limits of our institutions. Pope Leo XIV's injury wasn't just a public spectacle. It was a reminder that we all have our breaking points. Now, look at how the Vatican has responded. Yes, there was immediate action to care for Pope Leo XIV, to ensure his recovery. But what about the underlying questions? What happens when the world sees the very core of the Church exposed? How does the Vatican respond to the crack in its image? The initial responses were measured, but no amount of careful words or actions could conceal the reality of the situation. The truth is, once the curtain was pulled back, we saw the Vatican as it truly is, an institution that, while powerful and deeply rooted in history, is not impervious to the pressures of the modern world. Let's focus for a moment on Cardinal Tagle. His response was pivotal. In those first hours, as the world clamored for answers, Tagle's words became a focal point. Calm, collected, measured, some praised him for his poise. Others, however, felt a growing sense of unease. Why didn't he show more emotion? Why didn't he speak with more urgency? The world wanted reassurance that Pope Leo XIV would recover, that the institution was not crumbling from within. But instead, Tagle's composure seemed almost distant, too rehearsed for the gravity of the moment. But isn't that the nature of leadership? To remain calm when everything around you is falling apart? Or perhaps the true question is, was his calm the right response? Did the world need to see leadership in the form of raw emotion, a deep connection to the suffering of the Pope? Or did it need strength, stability, an unwavering belief that the Church would stand tall no matter the crisis? As the media spins the story in every direction, we begin to realize something. It's not just about the Pope's health, it's about the future of the Church itself. What will the Vatican do now? Will it change in response to the shifting landscape of the modern world? Can it continue to function as it always has, unchallenged, unquestioned? Or will this moment, the moment of vulnerability, serve as a wake-up call, urging reform, urging change? And let's be clear, change is not always easy. The Vatican, like any institution that has stood for centuries, is resistant to change. It's built on traditions, on a history that stretches back to the dawn of Christianity. But there's one thing we know for sure. When the world changes around us, when the questions become too loud to ignore, institutions must adapt or risk being left behind. This injury to Pope Leo XIV, though a singular event, has set into motion a larger conversation, one that cannot be silenced. The truth is, the Vatican faces a crossroads. It can cling to the old ways, to the image of invulnerability that has long shielded it from public scrutiny. Or it can embrace this moment of fragility, of vulnerability, as an opportunity for renewal. It can use this crisis not as a sign of failure but as a turning point, a chance to rebuild and strengthen the Church for the future. As the recovery continues, the questions grow louder. What will the Pope do once he heals? Will he use this moment as a platform for reform? Or will he, like others before him, shy away from challenging the deep-seated traditions that have held the Vatican together for so long? It's easy to get lost in the drama of the moment, to focus on the sensational aspects of the injury, the media frenzy, the reactions from the Vatican and the world. But when the dust settles, what will remain? What will the Church look like when all the noise dies down? One thing is certain. Pope Leo XIV's injury has opened up a conversation that can't be ignored. It's a conversation about power, about vulnerability, about the role of the Church in the modern world. It's a conversation that will continue to unfold as the Vatican faces an uncertain future, one where the answers may not be so clear-cut, but the questions will only grow louder. So, what comes next? The world watches, the faithful wonder, and the Vatican is left to answer for itself. Will this injury be remembered as the spark of change, or as the moment that signaled the beginning of the end? As we stand on the edge of this turning point, I ask you, what do you think will happen next? Where does the Vatican go from here? What will Pope Leo XIV's legacy be? Will he rise to the occasion, leading the Church into a new era? Or will the world continue to move past the Vatican, searching for answers elsewhere? The answers lie ahead. And only time will tell what the future holds for the Catholic Church, for Pope Leo XIV, and for the millions who look to the Vatican for guidance. The journey is far from over, and this moment, this injury, will be a chapter in the ongoing story that will be written by history. As the aftermath unfolds, the Vatican must reckon with the questions that have been raised. Who are they truly when their facade is shattered? It's not just a matter of Pope Leo XIV's health anymore. This is a test of the institution itself. Can the Church evolve with the times, or will it stubbornly cling to outdated traditions that no longer resonate with the modern world? In the days that follow, the narrative continues to grow. Every word, every gesture from Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle is under the microscope. People watch, they analyze, they judge. The injury might have been a physical fall, but the shockwaves are felt in the very soul of the Church. The faith of millions hangs in the balance. And as we sit back watching this drama unfold, we can't help but wonder, what will be left of the Vatican after all this? For centuries, the Catholic Church has prided itself on its immovable nature, its unwavering belief in tradition, in the rituals that have survived the test of time. But in this moment of vulnerability, Pope Leo XIV, Cardinal Tagle, and the Vatican as a whole must ask themselves, are we still the same Church that we once were? The faith of the people, their trust in the institution, is fragile. In an age of skepticism, of rapidly changing societal values, can the Church afford to remain static? Or will it have to adapt to the times, to evolve beyond what it has always been, in order to meet the challenges of a world that is quickly becoming more secular, more questioning, more restless? And let's not ignore the role of modern technology. The moment the Pope fell, it was captured for the world to see. Instantly, a split second became an eternity, broadcast to millions. There is no hiding from this world now. There's no retreating behind closed doors and controlling the narrative as the Church might have done in centuries past. The world is watching. And in this digital age, the stakes are higher than ever. How much power does the Vatican truly hold in the face of such scrutiny? The world is increasingly interconnected, and the Pope's every move, every word, is amplified in ways that no one could have imagined just a few decades ago. Is the Vatican ready for the realities of this new world, or is it still clinging to old ways? The truth is, the event was more than just a moment of public embarrassment for Pope Leo XIV. It was a moment that challenged everything. It questioned the very foundations upon which the Church has stood for centuries. This injury, this fall, became a symbol of vulnerability, not just for Pope Leo XIV, but for the entire institution. And this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Because when we're faced with vulnerability, whether it's the Pope, the Vatican, or ourselves, we are forced to confront the things we might not want to see. We are forced to question everything we thought we knew. Is the Church still relevant? Is it still capable of leading in the way it once did? Or has it become too caught up in its own history to truly meet the needs of the modern world? What's clear now is that the Vatican is at a crossroads. It can no longer rely on the old narratives to hold itself together. The walls of tradition are cracking, the expectations of the faithful are shifting, and in this moment of crisis, the Church will have to decide whether it can reinvent itself or risk becoming irrelevant. As Pope Leo XIV recovers, as Cardinal Tagle navigates the storm of public opinion, one thing remains certain. This moment will define them, not just as individuals, but as leaders of the world's most influential religious institution. What happens next is in their hands. Will they rise to the occasion, or will the weight of centuries of tradition be too much to bear? The future of the Vatican, of the Catholic Church, hinges on how they respond to this moment. Will it be seen as a dark chapter in history, a sign of decline? Or will it be remembered as the turning point, the moment when the Church faced its own humanity and embraced change for the better? The world will be watching, waiting for answers. We, as the faithful, will be watching too. And so I leave you with this. What do you believe? Will Pope Leo XIV and the Vatican rise from this fall stronger than before? Or is this the beginning of something much deeper? A shift that will alter the course of history? Only time will tell. But one thing is for certain. The events of today will echo through the halls of the Vatican for years to come. The true test for the Church is not in how it handles the aftermath of this injury, but in how it responds to the deeper questions that have been brought to light. Will it retreat into its old ways? Or will it embrace the challenges ahead, learning from this fall and rising stronger, wiser and more attuned to the world's needs? Only the future holds the answer. But as you watch, as you reflect on this moment, ask yourself, what kind of future do you want for the Church? The journey is far from over,